Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Breaking news here on the channel is Kirk Cousins. It is looking likely that he will test NFL free agency and possibly won't be returning to Minnesota as QB1 next season. And with that report, we'll dive into it. I think it leaves all Vikings fans asking this question. If Kirk Cousins is not the quarterback for Minnesota, well, what's next? I'll be diving into some more replacements at the tail half of today's video after we fully dive into this report from Tom Pelissero. We knew a report was coming later tonight, and Pelissero broke the news on NFL Network. But guys, no matter what time, no matter where I'm at, I was making a video in the bathroom earlier today breaking down the Diana Rossini report around Kirk Cousins. I will make a video for you guys ASAP, just like we're doing right now. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, lock us in as your go-to Vikings YouTube channel. I would really appreciate it. Make me look good for my bosses. I'm going to be working extra hard during free agency for you guys. So if you guys want to stay up to date, hit that sub button and lock us in. I promise you, there's a lot of other Vikings YouTube channels out there, but nobody will do it better than us with all of our graphics and all. So make sure you guys lock us in as your go-to YouTube channel. But let's dive into the Tom Pelissero report. He tweeted this at 6:24 p.m. He said the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, they remain in communication, but it appears the four-time Pro Bowl quarterback will test the free agent market, which obviously opens up at noon tomorrow on Monday. And guys, I think it's looking more and more likely that Kirk Cousins will not return. But the line of communication there is still open. Pelissero actually tweeted out more from him, and he said it's coming down to guaranteed money. Kirk Cousins has actually played the last 9 seasons of his NFL career, all with fully guaranteed deals. So that's what Kirk is looking for. He also did mention that the Atlanta Falcons are interested, but he threw out a wild name out there. He said the Denver Broncos could possibly be a team that is interested in Kirk Cousins as well. But I mean, man, just dating back to this season, I chose this picture to put up on screen because this was after the Vikings beat the Niners on Monday night, and I really thought the Vikings were going to have a special season on their way. You know, the vibes were going. We finally fixed all the turnover issues, and we were just stepping in the right direction. And I remember this, after this game, Justin Jefferson gave Kirk Cousins a top 10 chain, and I was almost sitting there thinking that Kirk will be the quarterback for Minnesota moving forward. But there is one thing I do want to get to before we dive into replacements here. And listen, Pelissero, the tweet he put out, obviously said this: Kirk Cousins will remain, or the Vikings and Kirk Cousins will remain in communication, but it does appear he will test the free agent market. And this would be kind of my pitch to Kirk and his agent. Listen, you can go test free agency. You can go get more money, no doubt, with another team who is more desperate than we are at that quarterback position. I'm sure Atlanta, I'm sure Denver would offer him 2 for $100, fully guaranteed, which is obviously what Kirk Cousins wants, and that's what's holding up this deal is a guaranteed money. Well, if I was Kwesi in this front office, I would slide Kirk Cousins a note or a contract, and it would say 2 years, $70 million, fully guaranteed. You're still getting $35 million a year, but you get to stay in Minnesota for the next 2 seasons as our starting quarterback. You got the weapons. You got the coach that you are familiar with because, as we know, Kirk Cousins, he's had more offensive coordinators over the last 10 years than probably any other quarterback in the National Football League. You have a great connection with TJ Hawkinson. You have a great connection with Justin Jefferson. Even Jordan Addison. We saw that connection kind of brewing early on this offseason. If you want to win, your best chance is in Minnesota. Take a discount and stay here. And I am still in this camp, even though we did get this report. I am still in this camp that I do believe Kirk Cousins, deep down, he knows his best chance to win is in Minnesota, and it's him taking a discount in Minnesota. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm still 50-50 on Kirk returning. But if Kirk is back in with Minnesota, I do believe it's going to be on a team-friendly deal. But if he goes elsewhere, he's going to get paid the bag. It's just going to come down to Kirk. What do you want more? Do you want to stay competitive, or do you want to go get the bag? Do you want to win championships, or do you want to get paid? Kirk's going to have to answer that question because, honestly, I just keep thinking back to that quarterback documentary series, and Kirk has that mantle in his house where a Super Bowl trophy is going to go. If you want to put something on that mantle, your best chance is in Minnesota. But let's dive into some replacements. Let's just say it all goes wrong. Vikings don't bring back Kirk Cousins. number one, or not number one replacement, but a guy that we have heard linked to Minnesota is Zach Wilson, the former number 2 overall pick. And I just want to say this now. I'm out on Zach Wilson being the starter in Minnesota. I understand you can make the argument where it's like, oh, maybe he didn't work out in New York because of, it's just a Jets organization didn't put him in a great, spot to succeed. But listen, I would just be out on Zach Wilson. I just don't think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. I don't like who he is as a leader, and I think it would go from complete opposite quarterbacks where you take Kirk Cousins, who's a great leader, maybe doesn't have the most unreal talent, but he gets the most out of what he has, to Zach Wilson, who's got unreal talent. He's got the big-time arm. He can touch every blade of grass on the football field, but it's the intangibles with him that have obviously, caused him to be one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. Doesn't really process the game too well. So I'd be out on Wilson. But we also heard this report. Sam Darnold could be an option for the Minnesota Vikings. And this would be, I wouldn't be too upset. If it all goes wrong and we don't have Kirk next season and Darnold starting week 1 and we do have a rookie quarterback behind him, I wouldn't hate that too much. I do think he's got, a good amount of, raw talent with him that maybe Kevin O'Connell can get the most out of it. But, Sam Darnold, in terms of replacement for Kirk, it's just an okay option. But that does get me to this point. There is no doubt you need to draft a quarterback this year if you do lose Kirk Cousins. Because even if you go all in and get a guy like, maybe a guy like Russell Wilson, like I still think Minnesota, with where they are right now in the NFL draft, picking at number 11, you have the ability to go move up, whether it's a team like the Cardinals or Chargers sitting in that 4-5 spot. If you have a rookie quarterback you like enough, you go put whatever draft capital, whatever assets you have, and go up and get your guy if you lose Kirk Cousins. Because you know why? Justin Jefferson. He's going to want to plan for the future, not just for this year. You could put a Band-Aid on it by going and getting Russell Wilson. But if you want Justin Jefferson to, fully be bought in to this organization and where it's going, you go draft a guy. You sell him on J.J. McCarthy. You sell him on Michael Penix. You sell him on Drake May. You got to draft a guy, no doubt, if you don't bring Kirk back. But I'm going to fly through 5 names here on some guys that have been linked to Minnesota and that could be potential Kirk Cousins replacements next season. Number 1, Russell Wilson. I do fully expect Russ to end up in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, but maybe he wants to come to Minnesota because he thinks he's got a better chance to win here. Maybe he looks at the weapons. Maybe he looks at, obviously, he'd only be on the books for the vet min if he does decide to come to Minnesota. So maybe they could get some more talent on defense, and he thinks he can rejuvenate his career here. I think Russell Wilson is a good option. Number 2 for me, this would be the interesting one, and I'm not the biggest believer in Justin Fields by any means. I still think he has a long way to go from being a true passer in the pocket, but the talent is there, man. Like, his legs almost give him a higher floor than I think people have because he'll always be able to make dudes miss, especially when edge rushers come in free. He can make somebody miss and go make a play, with his legs, but it's the on-structure plays, it's the passing from within the pocket, it's the 3rd and longs when you can't rely on your legs, which is why Justin Fields has a ton of red flags to him. But maybe you give him Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Kevin O'Connell, a true offensive-minded head coach that could really groom him to maybe even being one of the better quarterbacks in the league. This would be a wild card. Would the Bears want to trade him in the division? I am not sure, but just keep your eyes out for Fields because let's just say Kirk does go to Atlanta. Russell Wilson goes to Pittsburgh. You're looking around at landing spots. Vikings might be the best option available for Chicago. Number 3 for me, Tyrod Taylor, one of my favorite backup quarterbacks in the league. I think he is the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and he would just be a typical great bridge quarterback for a younger QB. He's a great leader by example, works his ass off. Love what Tyrod's done in the NFL. If Tyrod's starting week 1 for Minnesota and you got McCarthy or Drake May behind him, I think the Vikings are in a great, great spot. But number 4 here, Gardner Minshew. This is another fun one. Listen, Minshew was great last year for the Colts, man. He had him battling for the AFC South all the way up until the last couple of weeks, battling for a playoff spot. And overall, Gardner is not going to be the reason you go win games, but he can win you games if you put the right talent around him. Love what he's done in his NFL career. Kind of started off as a little bit of a meme in the NFL, but I think he's truly solidified himself as one of the better bridge and backup quarterbacks that we could have in the league. Now, this is a tough one. As a Kirk Cousins replacement, Jaren Hall. I would be completely out on this, and I've said this on the channel before. If Jaren Hall is your quarterback week 1 next season, something horribly, horribly went wrong for the Minnesota Vikings, whether it was the draft or whether it was, obviously, free agency, because that means you struck out on Fields, Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, Gardner Minshew, and you didn't draft a quarterback. Because I don't think if you draft a quarterback or if you draft a quarterback, I don't think Jaren Hall would get the nod to start. I think the Vikings would just kind of send the rookie into the fire if they don't have a veteran or a true bridge guy that they believe in. But Jaren Hall, hopefully he's out. I just don't expect him to be ever playing, quarterback for the Vikings as a true, QB1. But guys, got to get you guys involved here. Who will be QB1 for Minnesota next season? I have no freaking idea. That's why I'm asking you guys. You guys let me know who will be QB1 in Minnesota next season, and make sure you guys are subscribed. We are going to get an update on Kirk Cousins eventually, and we will have a video for you guys. So make sure you guys subscribe, stay in the loop. See y'all soon. SKOL Vikes.